Hello and welcome to the How to Make Partner podcast with me, Heather Townsend. And today's topic is one that people love, or rather, should we say hate? It's how to navigate and survive your firm's politics. Now, let's be honest, like any business, professional service firms are a complex system of egos, constituency, issues, and rivalries. Even the best managed firm has partners with strong egos, sensitivities, and empire protectors. And you might be sitting here and going, I like playing the game with a straight bat. I don't want to do politics. But the reality is, people who are politically savvy accept and deal with the reality around them by considering the impact of what they say and do on others. In a firm, being politically savvy means that you can work with others, get stuff done in the maze with a minimum of noise without triggering unnecessary negative reaction from your partners. Now, political mistakes sometimes can be career-ending mistakes. The reality of a professional services firm, it is based upon who influences whom and the relationships. You've got to be really careful about not making those political mistakes. Now, political mistakes come in a variety of shapes and sizes, such as saying the wrong thing, either because of ignorance or because you just couldn't help yourself, creating rivalries, conflict, or tension with influential people in the firm. That led to me being sacked. Acting inappropriately with clients introduced or firm members. I dealt with a situation where a client of mine was saying, I can't believe what my juniors said to the client. They were far too over friendly. It happened. So my first point is you need to accept and be aware of the politics within your firm and learn how to deal with it when it comes your way. So let me give you some of those tips that I've gained through the years. Tip number one, identify the movers and shakers in your firm. Who are the highly influential people in the firm? They may not be a partner or have an imposing job title. But who are the gatekeepers who control the flow of resources, information, and decisions? Who are the helpers? If you don't already know, find out who they are and get to know them. And also be aware of anyone in their firm who has a reputation for throwing their toys out of the pram if they're not consulted or involved. And, if you start to build labels for people, keep them to yourself. The next thing is prepare before speaking with senior management. Senior management, particularly partners, are notorious for being incredibly time poor and having the attention span of a gnat. But they do like being informed face to face or on a phone call. So be prepared with what you say to them and don't waste their time. If they've given you 10 minutes, then keep to time, or better still, finish ahead of time. When I'm running a workshop or a session, either online or in person, I'll always aim to finish on time. And if I finish 5 minutes early, I'll go, that's my gift to you. It always goes down well. The next thing, be careful when dealing with influential partners. The reality of the partners with the biggest client portfolios often have the biggest egos and can be incredibly sensitive. Now, let's be honest, we think it's because they have an ego, but actually they could be managing highly tense situation behind the scenes. As a consequence, there's a lot of room for making statements or acting in ways that could be seen as showing poor political judgment. And I'm going to be really real with you here. There normally isn't a second chance to make a good impression with these people in the firm. And look, you've been warned. Now, my next lesson is always be prepared to be flexible when spending time with a partner. Now, very often your time together may be cut short or postponed because a client requires their input. It could be your performance review has been rearranged for the third time. Don't moan about this. It's what happens with a professional services firm, particularly partners. Have a contingency plan if this happens and be prepared to summarize your key points and conclusions and send a written follow-up. The next one's a difficult one, particularly if you're tired, particularly if you're shattered, particularly if it's been a long day. Do exercise self-control before what's saying on your mind. And look, people say you need to be authentic, strip off the mask. Don't. You've got to think about what bit of you want people to say. Often people get themselves in political trouble by being too candid and annoying influential people, or too little candor, which is seen as holding back due to fearlessness or lacking guts. And which is it? Well, saying what you want to say, to hell with the consequences, may make you feel good. It would fail the political savvy test. You need to weigh up each situation on the candor scale. Are the right people here? Is this really the best time to speak my mind? Should I let someone else start before I pitch in? Did the speaker who asked for this candle really mean it? Or could, if I was really honest, could this be a career limiting conversation? And my next tip is about avoid gossiping or supplying information to the firm's grapevine. In a firm, people quickly find out what you've said about them, and that includes gossip. It can be very easy to get burnt by sharing private views with others in the wrong setting and with the wrong people. I think about what goes in on my counsellors, the local politics career that I have, and we've got several pet names for some of the opposition councillors, and if those got out, it wouldn't look good. So if you choose to gossip, pass on stories, it may limit your career. If you choose not to gossip, it won't limit your career. Then what I would suggest you do is avoid sexist or politically incorrect humour. Times have changed drastically, and humour that was seen positive as 10 years ago now is politically unacceptable. The rules are simple. Any humour that hurts others, demeans others, or makes fun of the difficulties others faces out. You might think, what's left? You can tell clean jokes, make fun of yourself, tell funny stories, laugh with others. The next thing is treat everyone as individuals and with respect. The magic and complexity of life is that people are different. Everyone, particularly partners, requires special consideration and treatment. What may work with one person may annoy another, so you need to learn to read people. Relationships which work in a firm are ones where there is mutual respect both for each other and particularly in a professional partnership for what each other has achieved. Next, learn to read non-verbal body language. Very often the first sign of trouble will be seen in someone's body language rather than what they're actually saying. Now, when you're in meetings or talking with people, tune into their body language as well as what they're actually saying. And it's very easy to label people and put them in a box. So be cautious about initial or rigid assessment of people. They just might be nervous. You could do a reasonable job trying to read a person and form an initial judgment, but it might be wrong or it could change over time. Avoid being what I would call too binary, too polarizing. Being too binary, i.e. black or white, often leaves you with very little room to maneuver, and extreme views can very often switch people off. These may be the very people you need to influence or befriend. To avoid being seen this way, where possible, make the business case first. Be more tentative than maybe you actually want to be, so others have the room to get comfortable and negotiate and bargain. My final tip that I want to leave you with is, if you've got a wounded bear trapped in the corner, it can only come out fighting. So what you want to do when you've got a wounded bear is leave them a way to come out without fighting. So don't trap them in the corner. Now that's a metaphor and they're talking about wounded bears, but very often in a professional services firm, you've got somebody which you trap in a corner, and the only way they can come out is potentially put their hand up and go, I was really wrong. It was all my fault. I'm really sorry. Now, of course, the best thing is they do that, but a lot of people don't like to lose face. So sometimes we've got to make it easier for them to come out the corner without fighting, which is where we kind of maybe put up our hand and go, if I'm going to take responsibility for this situation, this is my part in it. Or, I need to apologize to you because I can see that something is wrong and I'm upset that you're upset. You've got to find an easy way for someone to put their hand up and go, yes, it's me. If you don't find that easy way, they're going to come out fighting at you. Now, you may not know about that fighting. That might happen behind closed doors to the partners, and you suddenly may find yourself, why am I, not being put on job, being blacklisted? What's gone on? So, this has been the How to Make Partner podcast with myself, Heather Townsend. Please press subscribe. New episodes drop every single week. Now, please drop us a review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even a comment. We love hearing about it. And as I said, press subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Oh, and by the way, I've popped into the show notes a 10% discount on our full membership, annual membership of Progress to Partner Academy.